is Gavin Sanders, and concussions have changed my life. Concussions are a generally misunderstood injury. One they may not be taken very seriously. So in my experience, before I get into more specific things about concussions, I've had 6 concussions, and the impact they've had on me, I can't play football anymore, which is something that I really miss in my day-to-day life. I've had a constant sensitivity to light, constant headaches pretty much every single day for the past year, 2 years. I have had to get glasses because my eyes haven't been functioning properly. I've had tension in my head nonstop, which kind of causes that headaches. And overall, it's just been really difficult for me. It's been hard to recover from and hard to avoid getting new concussions. Really kind of puts a damper on what I can do in my day-to-day life. So what a concussion is. A concussion is an injury to the brain, and that is a common misconception. People think it's an injury to your head, and although yes, it's your head, it's your brain more specifically. And there are 3 main types of concussions. So there's a focal concussion, which is kind of your typical head-to-head contact. So football, there's a lot of focal concussions. Soccer, boxing, whatever you may say. If something is hitting your head, that's a focal concussion. The next kind is a linear concussion. And linear concussions are less common, but still happen. And a linear concussion is where there's no impact to the head whatsoever. So nothing's hitting your head. It is a kind of a whiplash like concussion. So if your head whips forward, whips back, whatever, a sudden movement to your head, you get maybe hit on your side and your head kind of jolts. That could be a linear concussion. So that's a linear concussion. The last kind of concussion is an angular concussion. And this is a little bit different. This is more of an intense concussion. It can temporarily separate the brainstem and the spinal cord. So basically, if your head were you're more of a neck kind of concussion, and really you kind of get maybe jolted back or hit, and then your neck kind of twists in the wrong way. That's an angular concussion, and that would be more of an intense kind of concussion, I guess. Concussions in general are relatively unknown, and there's not a lot of ways to prevent them. But I've done some research, and there are a few ways that can help reduce the likelihood of getting a concussion. So the first way for football players, which is football is a key place where concussions happen, is the Visas helmet, and this is the 01 helmet, and I don't have one with me today, but this helmet essentially, the outer shell is more compliable, so when the impact happens, it kind of molds in, almost like how an airbag would, and this technology is used on cars a lot. There's 4 different kinds of components for that, and they all these components work together, and there's more cushioning, makes it a lot safer for athletes to use. So that's one way, is the Visas 01 helmet. That's one way to prevent concussions. The other is the Q collar, and the Q collar is very interesting. Not a ton of research has been done on it, but enough to know that it can be an option. And this can be used for any person, any athlete. I don't think you should wear it on your day-to-day basis, but it can help. So basically, it goes around your neck, and it slightly presses in on your neck. And what that does is that increases blood flow to your head and almost provides a cushion around your brain. It's pretty interesting. So that is also another option. And if you use that and the Visas helmet, those can kind of work together to try to prevent concussions. Okay, so now I'm going to show a demonstration, and we have here a model of the human head and brain. And I want to take this opportunity to show how the brain is not attached to anything, and how your brain is so susceptible to getting a concussion. So here, as you can see, the brain is not actually connected to anything and is just sitting in your skull. So I'm going to put it back in, and I'm going to show by moving it. The brain just kind of moves around and doesn't stay sturdy. And so again, when you're getting hit, your brain is moving constantly, which causes a concussion. Now I want to talk about two areas of your brain that is very susceptible to concussion. So first is right here in the front, and that is the frontal side of your brain. That is one of the most vulnerable areas, and the other is the temporal side. So here and here are going to be those are the three most vulnerable areas in your brain to get a concussion. Can you say your name for the camera?
My name is Steve Sanders.
And you're my father.
I am.
So off the top of your head, what do you know about concussions?
I know a fair bit about concussions. I mean, I've experienced them myself, and then through Gavin Sanders, I've also experienced quite a bit of them and learned a lot about more modern science around them.
But like, kind of, can you give me an example? Like, what would you describe a concussion as? What is a concussion?
I mean, from a high level, concussion is a traumatic brain injury. Your brain is basically just this, just this ball inside of a concrete, shelter, and it's got a little bit of fluid in there. And when you get a big hit on the outside of your head, your brain is not necessarily always ready to take that, and so it gets bruised.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you've had concussions.
I have.
What impact has that on you in your adult life?
It's interesting. The older I get, the less tolerant, I guess, my head is of jostling or bumps. Something that when I was 20 years old, if I got hit in the head, would have been fairly benign. Now it's something that kind of rattles my head for a couple days. If I'm wrestling around with boys or something and I get a knee to the side of the head, it's more substantial. I mean, I'll have a headache for a day or two, and I'll definitely feel it more than I did before. And when I have those headaches, it's more difficult to concentrate for a few days, and it's pretty unsettling.
Okay. And when you suffered a concussion, when you were younger, what was the recovery like for the concussion?
When I was younger, it was many years ago, we were less aware about concussions. We didn't have a protocol like we did now. They called it, you'd get your bell rung, or you got knocked upside the head. It was almost a rite of passage. It was cool. If you saw, cuckoo clocks in your head, that was awesome. That means you laid a hat on somebody in football. That means you got your head in there and you're being a man. So we didn't really think about the ramifications of those. Parents weren't educated on it. Coaches weren't educated on it. If you could, say how many fingers am I holding up and answer it properly, you were in. It was just a matter of sitting out a play or two and you're back in. So really very little protocol back then. It had to be something quite severe for them to actually take notice and take some action.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dad.
You bet. You're welcome.
This video is to really inform about concussions and the dangers behind them and what can happen if you sustain a concussion. So some effects of concussion are going to be dizziness, headaches, nausea, blurry vision, all those kinds of things. If you have symptoms of concussions, don't just brush it off. If you're feeling those symptoms, take time, rest, try to recover, and don't rush back into whatever you're doing. And before this video ends, I want to give an example of what can happen if you don't properly heal concussions and if you just kind of keep getting concussions. So there's a man named Junior Seau, and he played in the NFL, the National Football League, for 19 years. And Seau received multiple concussions, head trauma, and he committed suicide on May 2nd, 2012. And this really shocked a lot of people close to Junior. They didn't see any signs of depression with him, but after his death, they discovered that he had some pretty major CTE, which is what happens after multiple intense, serious concussions. So ultimately, these concussions, these head injuries, led to Seau committing suicide because of depression that he'd formed, again, because of these injuries. But at the end of the day, concussions are real, they're out there, they happen, and they're dangerous. So hopefully this video helped teach you more about concussions and about why they're so scary, why they're so dangerous, and hopefully we can eliminate concussions.
Listen, you hike cause it's game time, then all of a sudden you lit blindside. You get up, you don't feel right, cause you're kinda glazed by the bright lights. The headache's legit, the room starts spinning and you don't wanna quit. Your game might slip, and that's not slick. This ain't a minor injury, it's real serious. They pushing you through the pain,